Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this month's Next Gen EAP webinar for our HR contacts on building a successful team, focusing on collaborative strategies for human resources. My name is Anthony Gray. I'm the Director of Corporate Training here at E&I, and I will be taking you through today's webinar. As you know, you have been muted on entry, but if you do have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat box and I'll address them at the end, or I will provide additional contact info at the conclusion of today's webinar for any additional questions past today. Teamwork and team building is an essential function, not only in human resources, but throughout any organization. Whether you are achieving different goals or ultimately aligning with the company's corporate values, teamwork is essential to getting things done. And exceptional people in our time, innovative individuals, and extraordinary inventors have all shared the common school of thought that working together often results in progress and positive impact. I have used this quote here from Henry Ford, who once said, "Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success." So your interest in this webinar today shows that you have not only an interest, but probably an incentive to encourage open and honest teamwork, build teams that work together effectively, and also managing the changes that happen within any type of team or teamwork environment. As you know, human resources is tasked with many different things in their job description, but among the many is finding the right people, making sure they stay at your organization, and making them reach their ultimate potential. Now, that alone is a lot to ask for, and you know as well as we do that managing people is far different from managing a task. And with that in mind, we need to understand what makes a team great, the different types of teams, and also how, in the human resources role in particular, we can best position ourselves to make things go smoothly. So today, you're going to learn three main things. First, HR's role in organizational teamwork. You'll learn about the types of collaborative learning and teamwork, and also how to incorporate teamwork in your organization. We understand that content such as today's webinar is going to be reaching our book of business, ranging from many different industries all across the country. And with that being said, we know that there is no one-size-fits-all solution for any particular organization or workplace challenge. However, today you'll learn key strategies and opportunities for you to implement these actionable items in your workforce and build better teams, locate proper individuals, and ultimately increase the productivity and benefit your organization as a whole. You'll hear me use the word innovation quite a lot today, and I wanted to discuss innovation in terms of organizational innovation, which I've defined here as the development or the adaptation and implementation of an idea, which is useful and new to the organization at the time of adoption. And I wanted to give you the definition of innovation simply not only because I'm going to be using it a lot, but also because innovation happens in the blink of an eye, or so it seems. Ideas come and go. However, when ideas have value, that is where you get innovation. And innovation can come from many different levels within an organization. Entry level all the way to upper management, whether someone has been there a few days or several decades, each employee does have something to bring to the table. Now, the content of their ideas will vary. The value of those ideas, of course, will vary. But what we can do as HR professionals to best make sure that we are giving everybody an opportunity is to encourage a culture of open-mindedness and allow everybody a seat at the table, so to speak. In other words, innovation is going to happen, but it's up to us to provide the opportunity and resources for innovation to occur properly and frequently. Now, it is very easy to say that innovation is a good thing, right? We understand that innovation sparks ideas and new initiatives. However, there are many challenges that come along with innovation, especially when it comes to the teamwork aspect of new ideas. And whether you're bouncing an idea off a colleague or a associate, or simply thinking of a different way to do things, you're going to come across several challenges that we need to overcome. In HR's role in particular, you're going to be constantly balancing two different things. Both are necessary to progress in improving the workplace environment and facilitating proper teamwork. However, they're difficult to manage at times. On the one end, you have to create and uphold that positive culture that allows new ideas and encourages and empowers employees to share those ideas and spark innovation. But also, you're tasked with putting teams together, facilitating change, and ultimately turning those ideas into reality. Because ideas are all well and good, but until you have an action plan and goals and objectives in order to reach that idea's full potential, you're not going to really get anywhere. So not only is it HR's job, among the many different things, to create a positive environment or create the opportunity or a series of opportunities for people to share their ideas, but also facilitating and managing the changes that go along with innovation themselves. And today we're focusing on teamwork and how to find proper teams and match individuals based on their strengths and their competencies, as opposed to matching people up based on their title or years of experience, which is what we're very used to in today's day and age. The two main responsibilities within the HR role in regards to teamwork, again, are promoting creativity and turning ideas into reality. So in regards to promoting creativity, it's up to HR to encourage a culture of creativity and open-mindedness, reward creativity and or extraordinary effort. Again, we aren't expecting everybody to have a game-changing idea, but for those that work efficiently in their current role or show effort outside of their job requirement, it's up to human resources and really leadership to provide incentive for employees to do so. Now, that does not necessarily mean to provide increased compensation monetarily. What it means is praise, appreciation, recognition. And of course, like I just mentioned, it's HR's job to provide opportunity as often as possible to innovate and to give people the comfort that their ideas will be heard and that their voice will be heard and that a collaborative environment is positive. So whether you have several different satellite sites, whether you're one building or everybody works remotely, there are opportunities to create teamwork and effective team building, and we'll go through those today in terms of promoting creativity. And even further, we don't need to just set the stage for creativity. We are also tasked with managing the individuals who are responsible for turning ideas into reality. So I'm not here to tell you that you need to come up with great ideas and then also make those ideas reality, but HR is normally tasked with putting teams together, putting task forces together, or managing conflict at the very least between individuals when new initiatives are announced or trying to be implemented. So that includes facilitating that team building process, managing conflict, and ultimately becoming a champion of change within your organization. And what that means is that change management is no longer a term that you use. You now embrace change, and you have promoted change as a positive event within your organization that individuals such as yourself can help facilitate and make go smoothly. So we're going to go through several strategies on how to do both of these things within the HR role, as well as detail the types of teams that you either will have to build or maybe you have come across in the past. I've detailed 3 different types of teams within most organizations to share with you today. The first of those 3 team types is a functional team. This team usually has a linear function, for example, like an assembly line or a product line. And innovation or new ideas tend to come from the top down, from management down to entry level. It's very systematic and process-oriented, meaning that there is very little or minimal opportunity for new ideas or change. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Functional teams are necessary in many organizations, especially in manufacturing or organizations that create products. Processes are made for the purpose of higher efficiency and lower cost. So functional teams do serve a function. No pun intended, of course. But when you have a functional team for strategic initiatives, or you use that functional team model, it's very difficult for new ideas or innovation to come about, simply because systems have been put in place and employees are essentially gears in that system, and they can be easily implemented and taken out and replaced. And because of that, employees may feel discouraged. They may not feel as eager to share new ideas, even if they know of a way that's more efficient or could be more beneficial. Because of the environment that functional teams tend to create, they will not be quick to share those ideas or those new initiatives. The second type of team are departmental teams, and these are very common throughout all different types of industries in the U.S. And these are members that work within the same department. In their job description itself, they are working alongside each other. So whether they're literally sitting next to each other or constantly exchanging emails or communicating, they are working together in the same department, serving the same singular function, which is to hit whatever metrics that department asks for. And because of this, increased trust occurs because you get to know these individuals over a long period of time. However, in departmental teams, departmental goals are the priority. So overall organizational goals or innovation are not among the top of the priority list. More so, it is how can our department itself work more efficiently, how can we improve what we're doing, while also maybe keeping the good ideas to ourselves and not sharing ideas that may work elsewhere because we want to take credit for it. So it's very personal. It's very exclusive in some regards. However, there are many more opportunities for innovation and new ideas to occur in departmental teams, because not only is there a clear goal that the team understands, but also they're working alongside people that they've come to know. And when you know people, you trust them more and they trust you. So therefore, you're going to be more comfortable sharing your ideas and making suggestions, even if they're not complete or if you don't have a solution to a possible problem. So departmental teams are great in many aspects, but we need to keep in mind that when we keep departmental teams as the only type of team, we are distancing departments from one another and making it seem like we have multiple companies within the same organization as opposed to one cohesive unit. Now again, I just want to clarify, departmental teams are necessary and they are everywhere. However, I just wanted to detail this type of team because that's usually a default that people go to. If there is a new initiative that involves new color scheme ideas for a company's new logo, HR or leadership will tend to just designate it to marketing because they are usually tasked with branding. Now, that's a great start. However, if we take a deeper look, we can understand our employee base more. We can analyze what skill sets we have available. We can incorporate other individuals into that team to offer insight and also a new perspective. And that's what brings me to cross-dimensional teams. These are the most ideal teams that you can build within an organization. These are the type of teams that after today, hopefully you will strive to build. Now, it is far easier to describe the benefits of cross-dimensional teams than to build them, and I understand that. But first we need to understand what this type of team is. Number one, cross-dimensional teams include members that work in different departments and range from entry level all the way to management and executive level in some cases. And the reason I include this information is because whether or not someone has a certain level of experience in a department or in an organization as a whole, or even in employment, they do offer, at the very least, a new perspective and a new set of eyes to look at any given project or development. Cross-dimensional teams are excellent for engaging all different types of perspectives and all different dimensions and ways of looking at a problem or a challenge or an objective. Cross-dimensional teams also prioritize organizational goals. Even if their goal of being put together is to serve a departmental function or one singular task, overall they are prioritizing the organization's goals. How is it going to improve our organizational environment, our culture, our benefits package? They're always thinking of how it's going to affect the organization and therefore prioritize those organizational goals. And they are also strategy-oriented. They are not result-oriented. This means that they are aligning with a corporate strategy or a human resources strategy. And this is where the HR role is really amplified and optimized. This is where the human resources professional can really step in and detail exactly how any given task or team-oriented activity can align with the organization's strategy. Because among, again, the many tasks that HR is responsible for completing, one of which is strategy, organizational strategy, making the business case for their people. And in cross-dimensional teams, there is abundant opportunity for new ideas. There's a culture of comfort and open-mindedness. There's open dialogue, open discussion, conflict resolution very swiftly, and also effective teamwork. So again, cross-dimensional teams are the most ideal, but that does not mean that all three types of teams are not necessary within an organization. So now I'm going to talk about how to encourage creativity and build optimal teams within your workforce. So now we understand why innovation is important, what role you have, but now we need to look at how we get this done, how we can build these teams, how we can begin this process. Step number one is evaluating your current staff. Now, this includes many different steps, but the main steps are identifying any skill gaps that are common within your organization, surveying or investigating to find employees with those bridge skills, in other words, the skills necessary to bridge that gap, and analyze the results of your findings. So what I mean by evaluating your staff, it does not mean that you need to one by one interview your employees. It doesn't mean that you need to send out a one-page survey to each and every employee and make it mandatory that they complete it. By evaluating your staff, what I mean is identifying the skill gaps, identifying areas of improvement. Where departmentally or functionally are you not meeting expectations or could see improvement? For example, if there are noticeable instances, frequent instances of miscommunication and misunderstandings, one of those skill gaps would be effective communication, right? So if that's one of your skills, again, you don't need to survey this, you could just notice it in your workplace environment, then you can actively search for individuals who have shown that they are very good at communicating. Or if you don't feel as though you currently have it, you can offer training and in-service training on improving their communication skills. But the most important step when it comes to team building and building successful teams, not just hiring, but even in project or task-oriented activities, it's important to identify what skills are necessary to complete that task. So in this first step, you're looking at the skills that are strong in your organization, but also, more importantly, the gaps, where you could see improvement. And that's going to dictate your organization's outlook. That's going to dictate the initiatives that you have strategy-wise. Next, you want to look at your organizational structure. This includes identifying current barriers or restrictions to cross-dimensional teams. For example, maybe you can't take individuals off the line, so to speak, and put them in a meeting for 2 hours. Maybe you have a lot of satellite offices, therefore there's a lot of telecommunicating, so there's no opportunity for in-person interaction. Any type of barrier or restriction that gets in the way of getting teams involved. Identify also areas of opportunity, ways that you can best utilize time that's already set aside. For example, staff meetings, lunch and learns. Identifying opportunities not just in the day-to-day operations, but organizationally, opportunities for change and improvement and collaborative learning. And also take a look at the innovation process. Take a look at when new ideas are suggested or brought about. Where do they usually come from? Are they always from the executive team? Are they always from the leadership team? Or do they have a mix of coming from entry-level or mid-level management as well as executive-level employees? Or is there very little innovation because it hasn't really been thought of as something important? Take a look at that innovation process and see where you can insert proper teams and initiatives and strategies to either enhance the current process that's going well or make changes and develop a better process in itself. And then step 3 is to build your teams. As an HR professional, you or someone you've worked alongside has been responsible for hiring individuals, hiring employees for certain tasks, for certain jobs. They require a certain level of education, certification, many other skills. So in HR, you're used to building teams incrementally, right? One person at a time, so to speak. But when it comes to team building with people you already have, with more than one person, it's important that you form teams based on identified metrics and areas of interest. And that's where identifying those skill gaps comes into play. Maybe you need a team that is not only analytical or numbers oriented, but you may need a facilitator who's great at communicating, or someone who's good at managing conflict in order to get the point across between those people who may not necessarily have high communication skills. Try to focus on strategy over function, meaning that strategy is a plan that you create and live by to progress and to improve as an organization. So focus on processes and initiatives that support organizational strategy over the function or result. For example, a lot of people focus on the result of getting rich. That's a lot of their goals. I want to be rich. However, that's a result of success. So really, their strategy should be to be successful, right? So instead of focusing just on the function alone and the result alone, focus on the strategy. And next, I'll cover how to facilitate that team building process, how you and HR can guide and begin that process without having to be involved at every step of the way, and ultimately empowering your employees to carry out this work for you. HR's role in team building involves 3 main tasks, 3 main responsibilities. That's to provide training, to provide guidance and structure to team building activities and the team building process, as well as coming up with or helping facilitate the change with any given action plan. Because as we all know, a goal without an action plan is a dream. So we need to make sure that not only we have ideas that are able to be shared, but when it comes to turning those ideas into reality, we need to have manageable, realistic steps and objectives that need to be completed prior to that goal being accomplished in order for it to become reality. For the training responsibility, you can schedule sessions to teach important skills such as communication, team building itself, whether it's through E&I or internally. Not only do we at E&I provide team building sessions in person, but we also, you can also internally in HR provide small lunch and learns or in-person or WebEx sessions on important skills necessary for team building. And this not only helps your employees feel more prepared for these type of activities and these type of tasks, but also you're going to be increasing their skill set and improving their knowledge base. A couple of rules of thumb, if you're going to do training yourself, include activities to increase engagement and interest. Getting the mind moving is one thing, but getting people to think and actively pay attention to what you're talking about in a training is going to impact how much resonates within that person. So, in summary, it should be concise, it should be purposeful and fun. Team building trainings and teamwork trainings should be purposeful, meaning that you're going to ask people to be part of a team at some point. They're going to use the skills that you're giving them in their job. But also, it can be fun. You can include activities. You can have ways for people to get to know one another and build that trust, which is, again, essential in team building. When it comes to action plans, you're not always going to be tasked with creating the literal action plan in any given project. If that were the case, we'd be far more busy than we already are. But when it comes to action plans, you may be asked how this will get done in a certain amount of time. How will this affect my job? I can't focus on this as well as this project. So when it comes to those types of interactions, HR is often faced with a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. And what you can best do is make sure that the action plan that has been set forth, either by that project manager or that department head or whoever is leading this team, make sure that the goals are SMART goals, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. Incorporate ground rules for interaction with employees and team members. Make sure that everybody's on the same page and make sure that everybody's treating each other with respect. When it comes to action plans that either you develop or are being brought to you, it's important that you always keep the environment open to suggestions and new ideas, because action plans and strategies are living documents. They can be changed based on new information or better options and better ways to carry out initial tasks. And lastly, with action plans, you can facilitate the change when necessary. So you're not going to be asked to come in on every meeting, hopefully. You're not going to be asked to put together every single team in your organization. But when there is change that is implemented due to major initiatives, it's part of human resources' job to facilitate that change, manage it, and communicate to all the parties involved why the change is necessary and why it's beneficial. Lastly, HR is responsible for providing guidance and structure. So a great way to do that is to set initial team meetings for projects. Set up these meetings, understand who's going to be there, encourage open discussion, introduce the team members to one another, provide activities, get them to get to know one another. Map out the goals and objectives that are being given in regards to this team, the reason why the team is being put together. Not just mapping out the ultimate goal, but more importantly, the objectives and steps to get there. And address any concerns and make yourself available to address any concerns that people may have down the road. And I know this sounds like a dangerous thing to offer, but teams, whether they've known each other for years or they're just getting to know one another, issues will arise, conflicts will come up, and if there is an outlet or someone that has put the team together for a reason, such as the human resources professional, that can facilitate conflict and can help get the team back on track, it's going to ultimately improve that team's performance. So key takeaways in regards to team building in the HR perspective. Number one, teamwork is essential to strategic HR. We can't do this alone. So you're going to have to work alongside others in different departments, different levels of responsibility and authority. But teamwork is essential to implementing strategic human resources initiatives in any given organization. Effective teamwork should be a top priority because no matter what type of industry you have that you're working for, you will have to work as a team at some capacity, whether it's project or function oriented. And lastly, through effective teamwork, human resources is optimized. You're able to put people together and achieve optimal performance while simultaneously creating a more positive work environment. So among the many responsibilities that human resources has, effective teamwork and facilitation of teamwork can drastically improve the environment and also the bottom line of your organization. I'm going to now open the floor to see if there were any questions submitted in the chat box here. I don't believe I see any. Again, just as a reminder, you're muted upon entry to this webinar, just in essence of time. But I don't see any questions. If any come up, I will address them. But I did just want to let you know that following today's webinar, as well as the previous two of this year, 2018, you can, on your HR Direct portal, access the webinar content, the recorded versions, as well as additional takeaways and presentation slides in your monthly webinar portal simply by clicking enter and accessing the webinar of your choice. But if you have any additional questions or would like to contact E&I, you can anytime, 24/7, 1-800-327-2255, as well as logging on to nextgeneap.com. I would like to thank you again very, very much for sharing your afternoon with me, and I hope we see you at the next webinar. Thank you very much.